So we finished up Karma Yoga yesterday. Not, as the students say. There's no end to Karma Yoga until, you totally have assimilated the knowledge, and then even then, it's just your way of life. So on it goes. We will revisit it throughout the text, but the main chapters dealing with it are those that we've covered up until now. So again, Karma Yoga, fundamental spiritual practice. The others don't really work without Karma Yoga in place. The reason for that is that Karma Yoga neutralizes the binding vasanas. If the mind is agitated, how effective is meditation going to be? If the mind is distracted thinking about a million other things, how focused will your devotional worship be? So Karma Yoga is an attitude toward action and its results. The beauty of it is that it is an attitude. So it's not dependent on being in any particular place or doing any particular activity. It imbues every aspect of your daily life, or turns every aspect of your daily life into sadhana, into spiritual practice, into yoga. So it's an attitude toward action and its results. It's based on the idea that we have every right to act and indeed must act, though our true nature is actionlessness, or is actionless, we'll just simply say. The jiva is a doer. As long as we find ourselves here in a body, we're going to be doing, or at least the aspect that is an apparent person will be engaged in activity. So, there's no escape from that. So, we have every right to act, we indeed must act, but we have no control over the results. We have a sliver of influence, but that's not control. Okay? So we don't really have control over the results. There's way too many factors involved. The whole entire field is involved with determining the results. Every factor. You subtract one factor from this whole dynamic, and the whole machine shuts down. So, everything is a contributing factor. No individual aspect or component of the machine is actually doing anything. Awareness, of course, actionless, all-pervasive, impersonal, has no arena to act in, no instruments to act with in its essential nature. It can act, but you put the two together and suddenly, boom, we got the whole show going on. Okay? A frenzy of activity. All right? So, it doesn't mean, this fact that we don't have control over the results doesn't mean we don't act with intention, because we do have a sliver of influence. We are a part of the machine. Okay? Obviously, this mechanism that's illustrated here is like the macrocosmic body with which, or in which each of us are sort of navigating our way through the apparent reality. And then, of course, on the macrocosmic level, the whole machine is functioning, okay, in the macrocosmic aspect of the three bodies. And it's an ordered universe. It's a cosmos. It's not a chaos. So there are these dharmas, these rules, these physical, psychological, ethical laws that govern its operation, and we act in accordance with those. We personify those oftentimes as Ishvara. Okay? So we're going to get into meditation today. Part of meditation involves upasanas, which are using visualizations or even deities as an object on which to focus your attention. So if that's your predisposition, or that's what feels comfortable to you now, then you can think of this whole grand ordeal as being, governed by Ishvara, this great benevolent force, this grand cosmic entity, okay? But it really is an impersonal order. It's not... it doesn't have a particular agenda trying to orchestrate results, to achieve a certain end, and then punishing those that don't abide by the rules because they're bad, evil sinners, and then rewarding those that do abide by the rules with a, eternal vacation in the clouds or some celestial realm. It's not like that. It's just this impersonal order operating. It has a cause and effect, or it works according to a cause and effect process, you might say, or that's how it unfolds. And it's governed by these laws. So those laws simply determine what the effects, and both what the effects themselves will be, as well as what their character will be. If they'll be, say, positive or negative, pleasurable, painful. Part of that is, determined by your own value system, your vasanas, your likes and dislikes. But so it's just this operation that's transpiring. We don't have a why because there's no end to it. I mean, and as far as not speaking of its duration. But it doesn't have any goal that it's trying to achieve. I mean, when we resolve everything back into awareness, what does awareness have to achieve? It's all-pervasive, perfectly full, and impersonal on top of it. But, I mean, there would be nothing to gain or lose or anything by the way the game is played. So, though we have a hard time wrapping our intellect around that, you're going to have to let that one go. Okay? Because there is no big end game to it all. The end game for each individual person is to know the true nature of the reality. It's such a grand deception, and it has, it's fraught with pleasures and pains. And if you get caught up in it, then those pleasures and pains actually become transmuted into suffering. Okay? But if you know who you are, then those same pleasures and pains can simply be facts that you're dealing with. You've gone to the amusement park and you're going through the haunted house, and then you're going to the penny arcade. And you're making merry in both places. So, we act with intention, informed now as we are by the teachings. We have, a better sense, perhaps, of what specifically our goal is, and so we can act in accord with that goal and perform those actions that we think will, best purify our mind and produce the kind of result internally that will help us assimilate the knowledge. Okay? We can still work for some worldly results, but those are not the priority. Obviously, we need to see that our needs are met. We need to survive. We have donned a particular costume that is associated with certain duties, responsibilities, and whatnot. We find ourselves in these circumstances. We got to take care of business. But that doesn't preclude knowing who we are and, if nothing else, doing karma yoga, which we're simply reviewing right now. So you can always engage life with that attitude, applying the teachings to the best of your ability, because karma yoga is not the end in itself, but it's what helps purify the mind. Just, bear that in mind, okay? So, the apparent individual person acts or realizes, well, I'm just a sliver in this huge, machine with all of these components working at once. I'll exert what influence I can, and I'll accept the results that come as the consequence of the machine. Now, the machine itself is self-governing, and it's self-sustaining. We see it continues to go on despite all the character of the events and whatnot that transpire within it. So it's able to accommodate any action, absorb it, reconfigure its cause and effect process, if you want to think of it that way, or its cause and effect operation in such a way as to mete out the results that are in the best interests of everyone. Okay? And so when we know that, then first of all, knowing that we are not solely responsible for any result, it essentially cancels our sense of doership. And yet then, of course, we still continue to do, but we know we're not solely responsible, so that alleviates some stress. And then when we realize the machine's just going to take care of business and everything's going to be okay, and then, that basically neutralizes our vasanas, because we know we're part of the whole. It's going to be taking care of us. And in fact, if we look at our lives, everything that we have has been given to us. We are not the authors of anything. Again, at the most, we've had a sliver of influence. Now, I know, we're experiencing the results of our previous actions, our previous karmas, but we're not like in control of all the events. So, and we, our needs are met. Okay, and so then with that in mind, the vasanas are neutralized, because whatever comes then is okay. We don't have a binding need for a particular result. Again, we still try to achieve certain ends that we think are desirable for whatever reason. But we're not upset with whatever comes, because we're able to accommodate it, given that we know everything's going to be okay. It's just as it should be. Okay? Takes a certain level of maturity to assimilate that, because usually we operate, and we've been conditioned to operate since whenever the subtle body began incarnating, that we should go after our likes and dislikes. So all of our judgments and evaluations about the goodness, badness, the pleasurability or painfulness of anything is all, filtered through that lens. And so, we get all upset and irritated by things. But again, that's what we want to get free of. So now is the time we have to come to terms with, here's what's really going on, instead of what I've always thought was going on and wanted to go on, and etc. Okay? This is just happening, everything's being taken care of, and now here's the way to alleviate suffering. If you don't want to suffer because of it, you can still be in the mix, but you don't have to suffer. So that's what this offers, that Karma Yoga offers that way out. So, the beauty of it is, like I just said, you get to be right in the mix and yet purify the mind at the same time, be doing spiritual practice at the same time, and ultimately you'll assimilate the knowledge. It's like I said, it's pretty much a done deal. It doesn't mean you're not going to have to put forth effort, but you've been blessed with the teachings. You've encountered them, okay? You've earned the grace through your past actions, your desire for this, and your focused attention, at least on the path, and you've convinced the universal order, this is what I want. if you want to think of it in personal terms, or simply you've put all this cause and effect into action, and now this is coming around. So it's a done deal. It may take some time, but you're on the bus, so just focus on the teachings. Don't worry about when the penny's going to drop. Okay? Because then that's just another distraction. Then you're going for this result. And then when the penny drops, what is it going to be then? Oh, I'm enlightened? Well, then there's still a sense of doership. Just let it happen naturally, and one day you'll just wake up and realize, oh, I'm not this person that I thought I was, and I got nothing to go for anymore. And then you can go for all sorts of things and just enjoy it instead of going for it because I need it. Okay? All right, now remember, the other key to karma yoga is remind yourself of these principles before you start acting. First thing in the morning even, you know. We're going to talk about meditation. It's good to start the day maybe with a little, you know, purification, quieting the mind before it all, you know, gets all rambunctious. Kind of nip it in the bud maybe. And remind yourself of these principles and then kind of keep that going throughout the day with every action that you take. It doesn't have to be a big grand gesture. You don't have to be offering flowers and candies and flames and et cetera, waving incense or anything, but simply internally, just remember, well, I'm offering this action to the whole, or I'm offering this action to Bhagwan. Okay? I'd like this to happen. Remember, as we've talked about, that's kind of like your suggestion. Hey, I think this would be a good idea if I had, you know, Cheerios for breakfast. Well, then you go to the cupboard and there's no Cheerios, then I guess Ishwara had other plans. It'd be better that you have an egg today, or whatever the case may be. Okay? So then you just say, okay, you know better, you know. I always loved when James would say, you know, I just turned my life over to Ishwara at one point, you know. Because you do my life much better than me. And and I just looked at the, you know, that resonated with me because every time I get what I want, I just realize, you know, at some point down the road, this is not what I wanted. You know, I didn't plan on this. So just let Ishwara do it, put you where you're supposed to be, and all of that. And again, you know, all of these teachings and Vedanta relies upon common sense. So turning your life over to Ishwara doesn't mean you don't ever think or you don't ever plan or anything like that. But it's a subtle understanding. You do those things informed with the sensibility that, okay, you know, if this works out, great, and if it doesn't, this is a better plan.